this thing just erupted on these billboards and on Facebook. It just kind of caught fire. 12 guys, 12 parents. I needed you then, but I really need you now. Because I've always seen it. My vision was always to where we going. In August 2025, Dreams Academy will be opening an elementary school for Black boys. I want to get these young men as early as kindergarten because I want to be able to start telling them at 4 and 5 years old how to be leaders, how to be role models, how to be young men, and start training them that young and molding them so that they got it by the time they in the 1st and 2nd grade, and they just thinking differently, man. We need this because we live in a hopeless world, and too many of our kids and adults don't feel like anything can be different. They don't feel like anything can be positive. But if I can start them at that age where they're really impressionable, it's not babysitting, but I got a kid for 8 hours, now I can change his life. Thank you to anybody that has done anything positive for Dreams Academy in the past. I needed you then. I really need you now. And I want to build a place of excellence, and excellence costs. I want the best teachers. I want the best technology. I want the best facility. I want the best of everything. Representation matters. So I'm working really hard to build something that young men see people that look like them. You can be a part from the ground up. I need my kids to come to a place where they're not counted out. And I'm not gonna skimp on kids' lives. Because I'm trying to leave a legacy that is bigger than me, but that somebody's mom can talk about when they son walk across the stage, and she'd be like, he started at Dreams Academy.
It's not gonna take a book. It's gonna take experience.
There's no code switching. I'm gonna give it to you real. I need you to understand this is what our culture deals with. This is what it's like.
Y'all hold y'all colleague accountable. Y'all put the pressure where they know not in our building, you ain't gonna underserve our kids. They wasn't prepared to teach urban students.
You got 3rd, 4th grade kid walking in, he's walking in the class like, I don't trust this cat, I don't trust this woman.
Now, me being the person that I am, I went to the student.
Yeah.
You need to go to the spaces where they dwell in.
A teacher should have that same mindset.
Right.
Do no harm and promote life.
Go talk to them. Go talk to a kid you don't know every day for a month and tell me you don't feel better about coming to school here.
He was like, that's the first time I've felt seen in a classroom.
You have to recognize who your audience is, who you're teaching. Even that includes the whole family.
We don't just impact for the moment, we impact for eternity.
This is where you get the ins and the outs about the community.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Dear White Teacher. Welcome to another episode. I am excited about this next 45 minutes to an hour where I have my new friend, Miss Diana R. Williams, all the way from Jersey, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Introduce yourself to the people. Tell them who you are. Tell them what you do. Just give them the whole thing.
Definitely. Hello, everyone. My name is Diana Williams. I'm a special education consultant based out of New Jersey, New York area. I work with educators throughout the country, really working to increase their special education content knowledge, their capacity, and just overall impact in their role. So that looks like coaching, one-day professional development, and really just supporting in any way that I can to really prepare educators to be more impactful and deliver quality services to students with disabilities, but also to respond to students' behaviors in a way that keeps students in school and learning and not outside.
Okay. I feel like there's a lot more that what I know already that you left out. So we not going to talk about the school and the martial arts and all that.
Yeah, so I did have the opportunity. So I started my career in Camden, New Jersey through Teach for America. Elementary school is my jam. I love the babies. As they get older, I'm like, ugh, get someone else to do it. But definitely had the rewarding opportunity to co-found a charter elementary school in East Flatbush, Brooklyn, New York. And it actually just got approved for renewal based off the work and the foundation that we put in. A great charter school. Currently K through 4, they have a martial arts program. And I'm excited to, even though I've transitioned from that role, still supporting that school in its special education department. And I'm also currently, in addition to my business of working with schools, I am the director of special education for KIPP, New Jersey, overseeing our elementary special education department as well. So yes,
got a lot going on.
Yes.
Talk about how we talked when we were talking the other day about how the martial arts piece plays into like the behaviors and stuff real quick.
Definitely. So the school name is Ivy Hill Prep. And one of the things that stands out about the school is that they at this point, infuse martial arts education into the school day to provide a productive outlet for students when they're feeling away, to be able to get that out in a productive way, but also to develop more self-discipline, and be able to really defend themselves if they are in a situation where they have to. And then we've seen that it's really just engage some students that may have historically had more behavior problems. It's given a lot of confidence to some of our smallest students in stature. They feel very confident, and now they have martial arts events where they're sparring each other and taking each other down. And it's just been really amazing to see the program grow, and they're doing great work over there at Ivy Hill.
Is the martial arts piece part of the school day? Is after school? How does that work?
Yes, so they do martial arts 2 times a week, and they either do dance and or art. So it's just one of the electives. And it is something that, when I was there, we instill the importance of students participating in electives, and never can a student miss an elective because they were misbehaving in class or they didn't finish a test. It's a part of the curriculum. It's really a part of being a student at the school. They've gotten uniform over the years. They have belt ceremonies, the whole jazz. So it's really exciting.
I like that. I love that. What have you seen? I know you mentioned the confidence and, like the little guys and all that kind of stuff. I can see that. Is there a piece in there where you have seen that it really helps them with their anger issues or frustration?
Yeah, definitely. I find that sometimes, little kids have big feelings because sometimes, unfortunately, they're dealing with big problems. And it's a conversation sometimes with students to say, I understand you're angry. While some students can just sit in a corner and woosah themselves, I'm like, do you want to go downstairs to the puncher bag and kick and punch a little bit to get it out? And sometimes they say yes, and we allow that and created that just very welcoming space where they know before they walk into the classroom, they take their shoes off, they bow to go in, and then they step into the martial arts room.
I love that. I love that. I'm kind of jumping ahead here because this is something that you talked about in the webinar that I got to watch that we'll talk about. That I'm gonna make everybody leave the podcast and go watch the webinar, so we're not gonna give them everything. But you talked about having spaces like that for kids to go decompress and kind of woosah, I guess. Why do you think that's important?
I think, especially when thinking about Black and brown children, there's going to be stressors that we're encountering every single day. And it's important, even at a young age, that students are developing coping strategies that they can do themselves, and self-regulate their own emotions when some type of stimulus happens. What we're finding is that when students don't have a coping strategy or a way to self-regulate themselves, that's when they're doing unproductive things or getting into fights or getting into drugs and alcohol. I think it's just a life skill that even as adults, we need to learn of how, when we feel off center, what do we need to do to bring ourselves back and make ourselves calm? Because we can only control ourselves. We can't control the people around us, and people do crazy things all the time. So we have to make sure that we take care of self first.
Yeah. I know you referred to it in the webinar because you were talking about students with disabilities, but I'm even thinking even coping mechanisms, and I think you was kind of referring to this as adults, teachers needing coping mechanisms. I'm not even talking about in the classroom. I'm just in life, period, that they can translate to the classroom that, hey, it's going to get a little overwhelming in here. And I need to find something that brings me back centered or, calm and, that kind of thing. So I think that's extremely amazing. Super dope that you all do that for the kids. And kudos to you on that.
Yeah, thank you. I think one of the things that I tell adults all the time when leading sessions is you have to be in touch with yourself. And I feel like sometimes actually people who don't work in schools don't get it. They think that they're kids, so they can't make you mad, but they've never been in a classroom ready to go back and forth with a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
And I tell staff all the time, it's okay for you to recognize, actually, this is too much. I had a friend who once called it emotional hijacking. Like sometimes she's like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And so the power of a team to look at another adult in the hallway and say, hey, tap me out, because actually I need to walk away because I actually need to pay my bills and I can't get fired. So I need to.
I think that's, and this probably has nothing to do with the classroom, but it's emotional self-awareness that I think a lot of adults struggle with. And a piece of that for me is I'm a very vocal proponent of counseling and therapy.
100%.
It's changed my entire life. And so the ability to regulate emotions, the ability to get through frustrations, both brought on by both adults and children, working in these spaces, because the adults will take you there too.
Oh, yes.
So you got to have that awareness going in, especially dealing with our kids and some of the things that they are going to bring to school with them that they don't even have control over.
100%. And I think, especially when working with students with disabilities and understanding that, look, this is the cards they were dealt. Yeah. And thinking about like students with ADHD, right, that are just all over the place and hyper and losing focus. If they could, they would. Like, they don't want to just be lost in their own mind. Right, and I think as adults, it's important for us to understand that and to figure out now what is in the locus of our control to meet the student where they are, because they have to learn. And I also talk to educators. I actually led a PD earlier today with new staff about, yes, there is medication for folks that have ADHD to help them maintain focus, but I would never put a parent in a situation where they feel like I'm trying to pressure them to medicate their child, because there's consequences to that between fatigue and loss of appetite and so on and so forth. So as educators, we have to be well-versed on what ADHD is and other disabilities, how they can affect the student during the school day, and then working our tools and strategies, because we can't over-rely on the medication because people forget or they just might opt out.
So I wasn't trying to get here yet, but you done rushed me here already, but it's cool. Sorry. No, it's fine. I think you were heading towards what the manifestations of the disabilities were. If you want to keep touching on that's cool.
Definitely. I'm finding that there is an influx of students that are coming into our schools that have ADHD, attention hyperactive deficit disorder. We have ODD, oppositional defiance disorder. We have autism, and that's just some of the top 3. And what's interesting about these 3 particular disorders is that often they go hand in hand. So I like to call it like the trifecta or the Cadillac of situations going on where a student is affected by all 3 at once. And so it's important for us to understand that, this student doesn't just not want to work or they're doing work avoidance. No, they actually just got lost in their own minds, and that's why they haven't started yet. So as an educator, when I understand what it looks like and the signs of ADHD in the classroom, then I can respond appropriately. Similarly, for a student that has ODD, oppositional defiance disorder, often case, you never want to get in the back and forth of a power struggle with them, because they're going to hold the ground the whole time, right? You want to just be clear and directive with what you expect and move on. And give them choices so that they can start to process and make the decisions that make the most sense for them in the moment. But to know better is to do better. And sometimes we don't know enough. And so that's why I'm working to just really educate staff. Even thinking about today, talking to them about autism, right? We know that autism is a spectrum. So every student with autism does not look the same. So to think that just because a student has autism, that they need to be in a very restrictive setting of a self-contained classroom is not accurate. Because there's some students with autism that are nonverbal, may have a low IQ, but there are other students that have a very high IQ and they just have awkward social interactions. So it's about first understanding how these disabilities can show up for students in school, and then thinking about what can we do as educators to set them up for success, both not to lose our sanity, but also to ensure that they're successful throughout the day.
What kind of took you down this path to want to educate, like, on the whole disability piece?
Yeah, so actually it was when I started at Ivy Hill Prep. So in our first year founding our opening, we just had kindergartners and first graders that they just, and this wasn't even like the new kids since COVID, this was before COVID, but they were just different. They were not responding to the tools and strategies. And for the first time, we were at a standalone school. So what we had in the building was what we have. If we didn't have the answer, we had to Google it and figure it out. So I became really good at creative problem solving and sitting down with kids, talking to them, talking with their parents. I started this thing called Ujima plans, where Ujima is the Kwanzaa principle of collective responsibility. So I would type out this whole plan of what we're doing at school, what the teacher is doing, and what parents were responsible to do at home, whether it's behaviorally or academically, because I truly believe in the idea that it takes a village to raise a child. And when your kid is coming in, turning up, I'm gonna try to figure out what to do, because they ain't gonna be turning up all year stressing me out. So we're gonna have to come up with something creative, because I got work to do and it is not babysitting them.
Right.
So I think that's what it was not necessarily something I chose, but a way to survive. And then I just became passionate about it. Like, I'm always rooting for the underdogs. I'm always trying to figure out the kid that's always in trouble. How can we get them re-engaged and to be a little bit more successful, and recognizing that sometimes it's going to get worse before it gets better, but you keep at it and more likely than not, it'll turn out positively.
And finding out what the root of the trouble is, so we can tackle it from a different perspective, maybe.
100%. I actually have another webinar on the functions of behavior, the understanding the why behind a student's behavior, whether it is they want access to something tangible, or an activity, a desired activity. Is it attention-seeking behavior, which is often what's happening, because students get addicted to any type of attention, whether it's positive or negative. Attention is attention. Whether it's sensory or they're trying to avoid or escape from something. And that was a really good one that both parents and different educators participated in, that was illuminating to them, they said, because of the different types of videos I found on YouTube, which you should not be recording folks' kids and putting it on YouTube. However, we were able to look at it from an educational lens and just really identify, okay, we see how the behavior happened here, and then the adult responded in this way. So that's why the kid kept spiraling and the crisis moment continued.
Are you speaking toward some of the things that go viral that we get to see with kids in the classroom, that usually negative behaviors and teachers responding usually negative as well?
We see that. We see sometimes that, sometimes the kid just turn up. Like, one of the examples, it was an assembly and the principal was announcing the winner for a reading contest. And then the kid obviously was upset about it. So that's an example of, like, the kid wanted the scooter, the prize, they didn't get it. So denied access to a desired item. But we also observe videos where the kid is having a moment and the teacher is like, I'm recording this, going to show your mama. And of course, it just goes on, and then kids are laughing and it just spirals worse.
Turns into a show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to jump back real quick to the Ujima thing you did. How receptive were parents to that?
Oh, they were very receptive. We had a very, very engaged school community. And I got buy-in from both parents and teachers, because it's like, hey, I know you're tired of us calling you. And even talking to teachers, like, I don't really believe in calling parents during the day unless there's an emergency, because one, it undermines your authority within the classroom. And two, the parents these days, they ain't gonna help you. And now you embarrassed and you got egg on your face.
Yeah.
So it's like, I remember one of the last meetings I had before I left that position, I called in. The student was in the meeting, the mother was in the meeting, the older brother, the paraprofessional, both teachers, the principal, and the social worker. Because I said, actually, we're gonna all come together to figure out what we're gonna do next, because what we were doing was not working.
Not working. That's amazing that you were able to get everybody in the room. I think one of the things that really goes overlooked is the amount of time a lot of teachers like yourself are putting in to get everybody in the room to help just one.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, that's good. I'm jumping back again to the beginning of the webinar where you shared a lot of statistics, especially about Black and Brown students, and especially about our young males, which I'm hugely passionate about, even with my work here in Ohio at Dreams Academy. And that's a large reason of why I do what we do, just because of those numbers, the suspension rates. Now I want you to touch on, this is going to be the last thing you touch on the webinar, because we go after this.
Definitely. It's just so many facts that speaks to the disproportionate rates at which Black boys and Black girls are punished, whether they're suspended or expelled.
Yeah.
The amount of days that they miss, which then puts them at a disadvantage when being academically on grade level. And so just thinking, and I like to start my webinar with these facts to really ground folks in the rationale of why it's important.
Yeah.
I think I also share statistics about the suspension rates and how it has increased so much since COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense, right? Because for about a year and a half, if not longer, we were all stuck in a house with either ourselves, if we're an only child, or with siblings. And so naturally, folks came back into the school building and are used to getting all the attention, are not used to being around people that annoy them. And then we had a mass exodus of educators. Now we have new leaders, new educators, and they don't know what to do. And so their first instinct is to suspend. But suspension does not change behavior. Oftentimes the kids don't want to be in school anyway. So sending them home is just what they want to do. So it's always important to ground us in the why, so that way then we can work on the what after.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe in gaining buy-in from people. And if we can align on why it's important to respond to students and manage behavior in a different way, then actually, I don't think it makes sense for us to talk about anything else, because we need to work on the mindset first.
Yeah. So one of the theories I lean on, in even doing this work with Dear White Teacher, but it matters everywhere, is when teachers are in college and learning how to teach, that's what they're learning, is how to teach. Mm-hmm. Then, especially like with what you just said about, there's a whole slew of new teachers post-COVID that have come into this education world. And you said something earlier, this new kid after COVID that, was getting all the attention at home with just siblings. Mm-hmm. And how do you connect those things? And even in your professional development, teach, we got to find other ways to not only just discipline, but suspension just can't be the first thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's one, just acknowledging the fact that doing the same thing, expecting different results, is the definition of insanity. And so if we want different outcomes, we have to change the inputs that we're doing. We have to think about how we're showing up as educators, how we're controlling the weather in our classrooms and in our schools. Are we triggering kids? Did we talk to them wrong? When we are trying to have a one-on-one conversation to check in, are we getting down to their level, or are we towering over them and speaking at them? Yeah. I think about things like that. I think about how we need to move away from the well, you need to do this because I told you to.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. It's important that we're modeling respect, modeling collaboration with our students so that we're making deposits. That way, when it's time to make a withdrawal and give that correction or redirection, that we have some buy-in already. And that goes for both families and for students.
I love that, man. So because this is Dear White Teacher, how do we take everything you just said and add the cultural aspects to it that can often be challenging in building the relationship that you just mentioned, like tips like, are you towering over? Are you at eye level? Maybe different things like that.
Definitely. I think staff who do not look like the students that they serve need to always start with self-reflection, reflecting how they show up in the space, reflecting how they are communicating across lines of difference. And this is something for both folks who are white, but also different economic classes. Sometimes there's communication differences. Coming into Brooklyn from Jersey, there is a great number of West Indians. And I remember even when I moved here, folks would say, good night, good morning to me on the street. And I wouldn't say anything. They're like, no, we speak around here. Okay, heard you, right? And you just learn, and this is how you connect with people. So I think another thing that I see with white folks often is trying to be too down. Like they're trying to be, Save the Last Dance, Sandra Bullock. They want to be like, no, that was Julia Childs, my bad.
Yeah.
But Sandra Bullock, Blindside, right? Like they're trying to be too down instead of just being themselves, because real recognizes real, right? And when you show up as your authentic self, that's how you build connections with people that are the same as you and different than you. And I think often about how, like, even I've had difficult conversations with parents, and they're used to interacting with white folks. And so they come in with a certain energy. And even I'm like, whoa, listen, I see you, but you ain't talking to me like that.
Right.
Right. And it pivots the conversation to a different way. And so I think it's really just being cognizant of how you're communicating across lines of difference and showing up as your authentic self.
Yeah, and that's one thing I stress a lot is just be yourself. Like I would figure it's harder work trying to be somebody that you're not than it is than just being yourself. The other piece of that, though, that comes to mind is a lot of white teachers just don't have, let's say, resources like yourself to give those strategies. And so, hopefully people, even get to know you more and can call you and say, hey, come teach us this. But what do you say to the teacher that's listening that has no resource in her building whatsoever, but is, facing the challenge of, or, school is about to start, facing the challenge of teaching Black and brown students and don't have an ear to kind of share those challenges, or not even the ear, doesn't know how to articulate what they're feeling. Is what I'm saying okay? Different things like that.
Yeah. So first, I think is the reframe. As a leader, nothing grinds any leader's gears more than someone coming with problems and no solutions. So in today's day and age, in order to be a teacher, you have to be degreed, right? So you have research skills. There's TikTok, there's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's Google, right? You can Google some of the questions, and I guarantee you someone else has already Googled it, because it happens to me in my random thoughts. How tall is Jesus, right? So like you can find an answer to everything.
What's the answer, real quick?
I can't remember. It's been a while, but he was short.
Okay.
I would have said like 5'6".
I'm taller than Jesus. Great. Great.
But it's interesting because I was on Threads the other day. Threads is like, I feel like the adult Twitter. I love it. I love it there.
Really? Sidebar. I'm not the biggest social media person. I have not got on Threads.
I love it. Like it's
really?
a vibe. 100%.
Okay. Twitter's a vibe too. It's crazy.
Yeah, but it gets wild over there. It gets
crazy.
Yeah, this Threads is like, how Twitter started before it branched off too much.
Got you. Okay, I'm gonna take your word for it and check it out.
Check it out.
Okay, all right.
So I was watching, I was reading a thread, and I can't remember the topic exactly, but it had something to do with a woman asking a question, and a Black woman was dating a white man, and something happened weird.
Okay.
And someone commented under, and I loved it so much. He was out of the country, and he said, "I know it is not your responsibility to teach me. However, I've been doing research and I'm trying to understand why this was offensive to you as a Black woman. If you don't mind, I would love for you to explain it. But if you don't, I also understand." And so many people responded like, this is how you show up. This is how you invite someone to educate you if they have the space to do so. And I think that's it, right? As Black folks, we don't have a problem talking with white folks about what they can and can't say, but like, there's Google, right? You have to do some of the groundwork first and come to us humbly. In the same way, when you get an invitation and you dress, trying to find out the dress code and you're Googling what you should wear, if it's appropriate or if it's not, you have to come with something. And then we live in a technological world where there's resources abundantly. Why do all the Black kids sit together in the lunch? Like it's the resources are there. I think you just have to take the first step, and then we'll meet you the rest of the way.
Is that one of the questions you frequently get? Why do all the Black kids sit together?
Well, no, actually not, luckily. But listen, if you have that question, I got you. From my experience going to an all-white private school in high school and college, like I got the answers for you from my perspective. Of course, I'm not the spokesperson for all Black folks, but I can help.
I don't think, so let me shameless plug real quick. That's what my course is designed for. That you can go to the website, Dear White Teacher, get the course. It's on sale for $97, coupon code SUMMER. And it's talking about all that stuff that you just said, where you don't have to be scared to ask anybody. Cause I'm just telling you, I'm addressing the things that you might be scared to ask. But I love the way the guy on the thread framed that. And that says to me that he's somebody that has taken time to learn how to communicate. Sadly, I think part of that was he's not from this country. So he's probably used to communicating that way. Where here, man, our communication skills be all jacked up.
Yes.
So, which because of that increases the fear of asking very simple questions that probably have very simple answers. But because our communication is so screwy, everybody's just quiet because we're afraid to push the envelope. We're afraid to even tell the truth because we don't know how the truth will be taken. And so, there's a lot to unpack there with the whole communication piece. What going into this it's a new school year. What are some of the things that you like, even in doing a PD today, that you find yourself advising, talking about, and sharing? I know a lot of it's a new school year. You probably getting new kids in your classroom. What would you say let's start here. What would you say to a first year teacher coming into a school year right now?
Ooh, first year teacher, two things. First, read the IEPs. You would be surprised at how often either teachers don't have access to, or they're just not reading the IEP. And they're like, oh, that makes sense. I didn't know that. Yeah.
But it's December.
So I think that's the first thing. And I think the second thing is get to know your students. I think that's going to be the thing that trumps everything else. When you know your students, when you know what they like, what they don't like, when you know that on the weekends they go to Pop's house to play with their favorite cousin and you follow up with them, those are the things that matters. And that's how you gain buy-in with students to get them to meet you where you are and get them to do what you want. It's not going to make it easy, but it's something that you can lean on a little bit. So I think that would be the number one thing.
It doesn't mean that they're not going to act a fool at any point. But I do believe when you've gained that foundation and that trust, their ability to be remorseful about acting a fool is greater, because they do respect you and they don't want to let you down.
Definitely. I think sometimes educators forget that, right? One of the big things that I talk about with folks now is data collection. And while the behavior may still persist, maybe the duration of how long it lasts decreases. Maybe it happens once a day now instead of multiple times a day. And maybe we used to rate it a 3, but now it's actually a 1 because we can calm them down. So I think special education in general, but especially behavior management as well, is about celebrating the near wins and taking your small victories and then compounding them over time.
Talk about that a little bit more. How does a teacher that isn't used to doing that, like, how do I spot the small wins and say something positive or affirming to that kid to celebrate it?
Yeah, so what I tell teachers, the first step is once a student has a moment, catch them doing the right thing as soon as possible. If a student flipped the desk and they're, screaming and then all of a sudden they're silent, shout out to you, Cameron. I see you being silent now. Okay, come on, join us again on the carpet. I can't wait for you to get here.
Yeah.
If a student is in a crisis and tears up the classroom and they're finally breathing and calm, okay, I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes. At 2 minutes, we're going to start cleaning together. And then you'll start cleaning and you'll talk about it and then you'll go back to class. So I think it's about sometimes not making it personal. It's not about us. It's about the students, whether they're a small student or a big student in high school, right? Like something is happening, but in order for us to really understand and respond to it appropriately, we have to first remove ourselves from it and try to get on some type of even ground with the students so that they can explain to us either what happened or why they're feeling the way they're feeling.
Good. So you've dropped so many nuggets, because I usually end with like, give the people a word of wisdom, but you've done nothing but that this entire time. So I don't even know what you might have left. But what I do want you to do is talk about where they can find your webinars at.
Definitely. So I would definitely encourage you to find me on LinkedIn, Diana R. Williams. You can also follow me on Instagram, which is at the Educated Leader, which is listed at the bottom. That's the SPEDUCATED Leader. There you will see snippets and clips of the webinar that you can click on and definitely gain access to both the webinar replay, but also the resources that are available, resources that you can use for your staff, or even if you're a parent at home. Talks about positive reinforcement, consequences, the differences between the two when you can use the two. There's a cheat sheet on like the 3 main disabilities that I spoke about: autism, ODD, and ADHD, what it looks like in a class, and then what you can do as an educator to respond and increase the academic outcomes, the behavioral outcomes, and then adjust the environment a little bit. So that was a lot again, but connect with me. I can be a resource to you.
We have it all in the screen and all that kind of stuff too, like you said. And so, all right, one more. So let me say this though, real quick. I appreciate you. You reached out to me to have this conversation. So thank you for that. I had to do some digging to find the email, but I'm very, very pleased that I found it, and I learned a lot between your webinar and the conversation we had before today and this conversation as well. So I appreciate that. And thank you. And I'm also saying that to say, I wish more teachers would do that, or consultants, all that, reach out to me so we can have greater conversations like these. I think that, a lot of times teachers tired of sitting in PDs where somebody just talking at them and all that. And they can, listen to this kind of stuff in a car while they walk and exercise or whatever. And so I think that proves to be beneficial as well for a lot of people. So I greatly appreciate you for reaching out.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been great.
For sure. Any last words for the people?
Oh, last words. Oh, I feel like it's so much pressure. Take care of yourself.
Great one.
Education is, we give a lot to others, and you need to make sure that you're refilling your cup, because you can't do anything with an empty cup. So at least once a week, order your food guilt-free, go to sleep early, go to happy hour, do whatever you need to do so that way you can stay in the work, because we really need to keep good educators that care about our kids inside the buildings.
Because unfortunately, there's a lot of educators that don't care. And that's, it's Another conversation for another day. Listen, I appreciate you. I learned so much, and I learned I'm taller than Jesus. It probably means nothing at all, but I'm going to share that with a number of people. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you for another episode of Dear White Teacher. Can't wait for you to hear it. Connect with everybody. You see the Instagrams. Make sure you stay connected with us and keep up with what's going on. Until next time, see you later.
Bye.
Peace.